Good morning, students. Welcome to the class of Social Science. Today we are going to start with chapter 2, Journey from Primitive Man to Settled Life. Jaibir and his family were going from Gandhinagar to Jamnagar in train. Sitting near the window, he saw trees, bullock carts, camel carts, rickshaw, bus, tractor, etc. He asked his uncle, when did this transportation start? His uncle put his hand on his back and said, train started in our country approximately 150 years back. Among all the vehicles which you are seeing on road, the bullock cart is the oldest. Before it, thousands of years back, men didn't have any means of transportation. He used to go from one place to another on foot. So the oldest means of transportation is bullock cart, and even that was possible after the invention of wheel. And the earliest wheel were used as potter's wheel. They were invented in Mesopotamia around 3500 BC, which means almost before 5500 years ago from now. And the wheelbarrow, which is a small cart with a single wheel, was invented by the ancient Greeks. Coming to the next topic, primitive man and their nomadic life. Primitive man means people of very old time, approximately 20 lakh years ago. He led a nomadic life and spent his time by hunting. This stage of humans is called as hunters and gatherers. He used to gather his food by hunting animals like deer, fishes, and birds. Other than this, they collected roots and fruits for their food. It was not that easy. Sometimes wild animals attacked them. Moreover, some of the animals were fast in running, so it was not easy for primitive man to catch them. Thus, primitive man used to wander from one place to another in search of food. Thus he learned which fruits and roots to eat and which not to eat, as many of them were poisonous. Animals like deer, sheep, goat were easy to hunt, so primitive man used to wander from one place to another in search of them. Moreover, water being essential for life, they used to settle down near the sources of water. So a nomad is someone who lives by traveling from one place to another. Nomadic thus means anything that involves moving around a lot. Nomadic hunters and gatherers tribes follow the animals they hunt, carrying tents with them, and you can take an example from Man vs. Wild on Discovery Channel. Of human habitation of primitive man in India. Archaeologists, anthropologists, and historians have together found out many places of habitation of primitive man in India. First of all, yes, what is anthropology? Anthropology is the study of what makes us human. Anthropologists take a broad approach to understand the many different aspects of the human experience, which we call it as holism. They consider the past through archaeology to see how human groups lived hundreds of thousands of years ago and what was important to them. Moving ahead, along with it, they also found out information about implements used by them. They used implements and weapons made up of stones and woods. Sometimes they even used implements made up of bones. Since the lives of hunters, gatherers, and wanderers are associated with stone technology, this time is called as Paleolithic. The stones shown in figure 2.1 were used to cut vegetation and to scrap the skin of animals. Primitive man used peel of the tree and skin of the animals to cover his body. So Paleolithic literally means Old Stone Age, roughly around 2.5 million years ago to around 10,000 BC. Early humans lived in the caves or simple huts and were hunters and gatherers. They used basic stone and bone tools as well as the crude stone axes for hunting birds and wild animals. Map of Stone Age human habitation in India. Look carefully at the places marked in the map 2.2 Archaeological Places. You will find that at many places of India, the primitive man have lived. Few places are shown in the map, but there are evidence of their habitat in many places in India. They prefer to stay in good and large places where stones, wood, and water were found easily. They lived in natural caves to protect themselves from rain and wild animals. Several such places have been found in Vindhya mountains in central India. Such types of places have also been found in the region around Narmada river. Bhimbetka, Madhya Pradesh, has been found, which was an excellent place of human habitation. In its caves, near about 500 images of birds, deer, wooden spear, trees, humans, etc., drawn by the primitive man have been found, which are drawn with the help of natural colors. So the early Stone Age hominin fossils have been also found out in the Narmada Valley of Madhya Pradesh. Out of some have been dated to around 200 to 7 lakh BP, that means before present. Discovery of fire and wheel and their uses. Ruins of ashes found in the caves of primitive man in Kurnool in South India indicates that they were familiar with fire. As per the historians, approximately 11,000 years ago, humans started using fire. Uses of fire had revolutionized their life because with the help of it, they could cook the meat and eat, get light, and protect themselves from wild animals. So the claims for the earliest definite evidence of control of fire by a member of Homo range from around 1.7 to 2 million years ago, which means around 17 lakh to 20 lakh years ago from now. And the first interaction with the fire probably came following a lightning storm or other weather event that triggered natural wildfire. And this wildfire would cause animals to scatter, making them easy pickings for early humans waiting on the periphery. This is how the change revolutionized their life, and they started using it in many different ways. Other than fire, wheels also revolutionized their life. They learned to make wheel from the tree trunk and thick wood. As we discussed earlier, that the wheel were created to serve as potter's wheel around 3500 BC in Mesopotamia. And even 300 years before, someone figured out to use them for chariots. So the ancient Greeks invented the Western philosophy and along with that, wheelbarrow. Moving ahead with the next topic, changing environment. Around 12,000 years ago, there was a widespread change in the atmosphere of the world. Due to increase in temperature, vegetation and grass fields started growing in many areas of the world. As a result, number of grass-eating animals, herbivorous animals like deer, sheep, goat, etc. increased. Primitive man certainly got benefits of all. They started studying these animals' behavior and thus their mental development started. They came in contact with grass, trees, vegetation as well as wheat, barley and other grains due to the climatic change. By using stones, women, men and children collected grains. Because of this curious instinct, slowly agriculture started in India. people started using stones to grow grains. They started growing grains near the banks of rivers and constructed their houses made up of mud, thatch, and other materials in the nearby areas. As a result of it, the nomadic life came to an end and they started with a settled life. The first companion or a friend of his settled life was a dog. Besides, he was also familiar with sheep, goat, cow, buffalo, pig, etc. Gradually, they started adjusting with them too. These animals protected them from wild animals. Thus, they associated with the animal husbandry also along with farming. However, research is being carried out to find out how long he had been using animals to get milk. So this is how their study helped them to get a settled life with the help of agriculture and animal husbandry. Even they started taming animals, and the first tame animals was dog, who helped them to guard their houses and themselves from wild animals. So moving ahead with the next topic, settled life, food, shelter and clothing. Early life and pastoral activity transformed primitive man's life into a settled life. We know that agricultural land cannot be left out because it takes some time for crops to grow. It needs water, and crops have to be harvested when the grains are ready. This process leads to the beginning of settled life in India. He also started making earthen pots for the storage of grains. As the wandering life came to an end, there was a widespread change in their food habits, clothes, and shelter. Along with wheat, barley, meat, they started eating fish and fruits found near their settlements. He lived in the houses made up of mud, thatch, and other such materials. He did agriculture. He made farming implements of stone, which included spade, chisel, and sickle. The following table shows us the places in India where the grains, shelter, weapons, and the remains of the animals have been found. So please go through it thoroughly. So eventually, it took a time for a settled life because agriculture activity is a process which requires a good amount of time, like sowing, watering, and harvesting. This process lead them to a settled life, and in meantime they also started preparing earthen pots to store grains. So all of this together affected their food, shelter, and clothing. They were not leading nomadic life, so they started preparing huts and the tools made out of the stones, which can be helpful to them in the farming. We get information about the human settlements and cattle rearings from the places like Buzarom, Guf Kral, Horangi, Margar, Lengach, and Bhimbetka, which were discovered by our archaeologists. From places such as Margar and Inamgam, we even get information about their houses and farming. They used to grow grains like barley and bajra. Sharp stones implements have been found from places like Margar and Inamgam. This might have been used for farming. Margar may be considered to be the oldest village of ancient India. You see Margar in the map. Farming of barley and wheat started from here. They reared sheep and goat. So from the places like Burzahum, Gufkral, Hurangi, Margar, Lengach, and Bhimbetka, we get lot of information about human settlements and cattle rearing found by our archaeologists. And Margar is one of the oldest village of ancient India. They did farming and stored grains. Bones of the animals have also been found here. They lived in a rectangular houses. Small barns have also been found in these houses. According to the evidences found in Margar, they honored the dead by burying them. Many such evidences have been found here. Evidence has been found at one place that goat was also buried along with men. This suggests their belief that there is a life after death also. In the same way, a place named Inamgaon has been found in Maharashtra, from where remains of dead bodies of the children have been found. They lived in the round shaped houses, reared cattle, and did farming of bajra and barley. With the information of the rectangular houses, farming and cattle rearing, and even the dead remains of the humans and animals buried found, which describes that they used to honor the dead by burying them and had a belief that there is a life after death. And in Inamgaon, in Maharashtra, also the dead remains of children were found that they lived in the round houses and did cattle rearing and farming. That's all for this chapter. I hope you all got the point thoroughly. And if not, please go through the video once again. Thanks a lot and have a nice day ahead.